If you've entered into a new season in your life, either by choice or by default, perhaps circumstances around you have drastically changed and you're now in a new season that doesn't look like the previous season. And you're trying to figure out, how do I navigate this new season? It feels like I'm actually maybe even a different person, or I have to be a different person during this season. And what worked during last season just doesn't work in this season. Where do I go from here? So in this video, I'm going to go over 4 specific questions to ask yourself, either just having an internal dialogue conversation with yourself, or you can journal these, which is what I did this morning, to help you gain more clarity about the direction that you're heading, why you're there in the first place, what you can gain with more ease and more peace in your mind and your heart and your spirit. So the first question to ask yourself, and this might seem very self-explanatory, but what season are you in? Ask yourself, what season am I in right now? And the reason why it's important to ask yourself that question is because a lot of times when we move into a new season, when you move into a new season, there's a tendency to have the same expectations of yourself that you had in the previous season. So for example, if you are now a caretaker for a loved one, or one of your loved ones is now sick and ill, and you're the primary caretaker for that person, or you've had a layoff, or you're entering retirement, or you're a new grandparent, or maybe you are taking care of your your grandchild full time now, and now you're almost like a parent all over again. Whatever the circumstance is, you are in a new season. You can't operate the same exact way that you did in the previous season. And so ask yourself, what season am I in? So I'm going to share with you the season that I'm in, and I'm going to be referencing my notebook. You'll see me looking down occasionally just to reference some of the notes that I jotted down this morning during my journal time. And the season that I'm in right now is a season of rest, trust, and exploration. Now, the season of rest is mostly by default, but it actually is kind of by choice as well. So the season of rest is things just started stalling completely in my business. And if you don't know what I've been doing these last years, I've been in the emotional healing wellness industry for over 25 years. Licensed clinical counselor, had a private practice for a while. I've done community mental health, worked in schools, worked with children, worked with kids in Africa, worked in group homes. I have a variety of different experiences in the mental health and emotional healing space. And in my own business, and I've been a business owner for 12 years, things just suddenly came to a halt a few months ago, just out of nowhere, just dead, nothing, like no clients, no services, nothing. And it got me thinking about some things. Number one, it was almost like forcing me to rest. And initially I was a little stir crazy. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. If I'm not doing something, that I'm not making money. And if I'm not making money, what does that mean about X, Y, and Z, right? Your mind can go to so many different places. For me, I was feeling a lot of anxiety. I was feeling a lot of what ifs. And I've also been using this season to slow down. It's almost like forcing me to slow down. It's inviting me to slow down. And I'm wondering if the season that you're in is also inviting you to slow down a little bit. And ask yourself some really hard questions. Now, one of the things that I've been recognizing this season that I'm in, and why I might be entering this season of rest, is recognizing the reality of what has been added to my plate fairly recently, at least within the last couple of years, that was very different than the last 20 years prior, right? So a lot of times when there is more added to your plate, you may not have the same bandwidth or capacity to hold all of that on that plate. So for example, for me personally, my father had a stroke in the beginning of 2024, 2.5 years ago. And that was a big stressor. Number one, because I was definitely concerned for his welfare. He was in a really horrible nursing home for a while. He couldn't walk. He had a lot of different symptoms that were really, really hard for him and for the family. So I had to take like 3 different family leaves during the course of about a year and a half or so, like 6 week, between 5 to 6 week family leaves to go back to my home state of Minnesota, because I'm living in a different state now, just to help my mom and trying to figure out placement for him. That was really heavy on my heart. It still is. He's actually now in a much better placement. That's a whole long story, but he's in a so much better placement, but he still can't walk. He's exhibiting signs of dementia. There's things that are just still really hard on my heart. And I've been noticing that, wow, Lori, you have been grieving a lot. You've been grieving that, plus my dog almost passed away. Well, at least we thought he was going to pass away a few months ago. And he's like my soul dog. He's just the best. If you are a dog owner, you know how much they mean to you, especially if it's, someone that's been by your side, unconditional love from the very beginning. And so that's a different story too. But basically there's just so many things. I'm just giving you just a few examples. There's way more than that. But all of these things that have just been placed upon my plate. And I think sometimes we don't recognize how much, for me personally, I wasn't fully recognizing how much all of these different things were weighing me down. And to top it off, if you're a middle-aged woman, or if you are older than a middle-aged woman, you know what perimenopause does to your mind and your body as well. So now I'm going through this phase of drastic hormonal changes, crazy body changes. I mean, like, hair starts thinning and you're putting in all this. For me, I've been strength training pretty consistently for like the last 7 years, and I am still strength training really consistently, but my body is like, yeah, we're not going to show you very strong signs that you're actually putting in all this effort. In fact, we're just going to add a bunch of body fat to your midsection. And like all of these things that just have been drastically changing in my, like I said, my mind, my body, my hormones, and then all of these things being placed upon my plate. When I just had a reality check of all the things that I'm experiencing in this new season, I cannot operate to the same capacity that I could in my last season. There were so many other things circumstantially and physiologically in my previous season that were working for me. And I'm not saying what is happening in my life right now is working against me, but it's taking an honest inventory of what are the stressors that you're experiencing. Being honest with yourself about that, because I'm telling you, one of the things that I've noticed is when I start taking a more, clear, honest inventory of the things that I have been experiencing, I'm like, man, I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty tired. I don't know that I have the bandwidth to do what I was doing in my previous season, when I was doing intensive after intensive, which is basically like a 5 or 6 hour session with a client, going really deep on, deep emotional healing. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. In fact, if I have another client book a session, I'll probably light up, because I really do love it. And my husband reminded me how much I love those. And I do. You can love something still in this new season that you loved before, but you may just not have the capacity to operate to the same degree that you did in the last season. And so that's another thing that I've been recognizing is, wow, maybe actually God is allowing some of these things to fall away for my own good, to almost force me into a state of rest and to invite me to recognize the benefits of this season. So what are the benefits of this season for you? A lot of times when we're entering a new season, especially if there are difficulties in the new season, we'll often, at least this is how my brain operated initially until I had a perspective change, I would look back to the previous season and be like, oh man, I really wish it was like that. I wish I could just bounce back. Like with my strength training, just change a few things in my strength training, change a few things with my nutrition, and my body responds. That's not working for my body anymore. There's some emotions there, right? with this new season, it's like, oh, the things that worked then aren't working for me right now. I could also look at, oh, I had, consistent income and really great financial months in the previous season. And now I'm not noticing that. But you know what? Here's a perspective change. Here's something that shifted in my perspective is looking at all the things. Yes, we can grieve those things from the past season, but we can also recognize all the wonderful things that we do have in this new season, even if it's a difficult one. I'm going to give you an example. In my previous season, one of my jobs I had in the past, where I basically took a break as an entrepreneur, and I went back into working for an employer, and I was working in community mental health, 10-hour shifts, working with people with some pretty severe symptoms. So that really takes a toll. When you're doing that 40 hours a week, 10-hour days, plus commuting to and from, those are really long days. And one of the things that I missed out on is daily walks with my dogs. And that might sound really insignificant, but that's one of the things that I had a perspective shift in this season is how grateful I am when I can take my dogs one at a time, because they're really big. I only take one at a time. They're over 100 pounds. And I take one of them at a time, and my heart is just filled with gratitude. I feel grateful every single time I get to walk my dogs, because I didn't have that opportunity in the last season. I have the opportunity now. I have an opportunity now to have slower mornings where I don't have to rush off to the gym and be to the gym by 5:30 a.m. and finish by 7 a.m. and then rush out the door by 8 a.m. to get to my job by 8:30 a.m., etc. Right? So there are so many things that I have in this season right now that I didn't have in the previous season. So ask yourself that question. What are some of the gifts that you have during this season that you didn't have in the last season? So with this season of rest, I think one of the things that is also the other reason why I listed trust is because for me, and I'm wondering if this is true for you, if you're also in a season of rest, it's a little bit challenging to fully rest because there's been so much conditioning of go, 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 do, make money, do, go, busy, right? And when you're not doing that, it can feel very unproductive. But one of the things that came to mind this morning is my husband actually texted me a screenshot of his recovery score. So basically, if you wear like a smart device and it tracks your sleep and your deep sleep and your REM sleep and all of that, and gives you a score on how well you've recovered and your sleep score, he sent me that screenshot this morning. And the reason why he did that is because his sleep score was exceptionally high. And he had more deep sleep and more REM sleep than he usually does. And what dawned on me with that is, number one, I was really grateful that he had that because he's been working nonstop every single day, 12 to 14 hour days, Monday through Sunday for the last close to 6 months because he started a business and he has to put in a lot of hard work at his gym to get things up and running before he brings on new coaches, right? New strength coaches. Anyway, all that to say, he needed that. His body needed that. We can't run on empty, right? His body really needed that. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe, as I'm reflecting on this season of rest, I'm like, there's a lot of metaphors there. Like maybe this is actually my opportunity to get really deep rest, to get a really great sleep score without trying to fight the sleep. When I worked with clients with very severe PTSD symptoms, post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the things that was very common was people not getting great sleep and feeling restless and feeling hypervigilant. When they would go to sleep, they would feel hypervigilant, almost like they're always on guard, and they could never fully rest. Do you know how wearing that is in the body and the mind? It is really difficult to function. And so it got me thinking, what if the season of rest is allowing me to trust enough to not be so hyper vigilant, to need to do, go, busy, to actually rest. To put the hypervigilance down and to fully rest so I can get that sleep, like a really strong sleep score. Metaphorically speaking, right? Like maybe this is a season that represents a really great night's sleep. Anyway, okay, so the third thing for me is exploration. One of the things that I'm curious if there's anything during the season that is piquing your curiosity and asking you to lean in a little bit, even if it makes absolutely no sense to your previous season and the hats that you wore in your previous season. So for example, I shared with you, I've been wearing the hat of emotional healing for 25 years. And now what I'm leaning into during this season, because I have time and also I have this curiosity, I'm leaning into something completely different. Can you even take a wild guess? It's a complete 180. I am studying for my remote pilot license. What is that? That's becoming a pilot for an unmanned aircraft, a drone, basically. It's becoming a drone pilot. And there's a whole long story to how I came to that. But basically, I'm leaning into something that is completely outside of my norm. And there are so many elements of this that's like learning a new language, right? So anytime you start something new, especially that's drastically different outside of your comfort zone, there is so much to learn. But what I've discovered about myself, so for example, like I'm learning how to read these sectional charts that pilots understand. I mean, it's totally outside of my language that I've spoken for the last 20 some years. And I'm learning slowly but surely. I'm not ready to take the exam yet because there's still a lot for me to learn, but I want to learn how to operate a drone, and I'm very into storytelling and nature photography. I taught myself photography a few years ago, and I think that's what has given me the confidence to explore something so outside of the box. When my husband saw me using my cell phone and clicking and taking pictures everywhere I went with my cell phone, he thought to himself, I need to buy her a real camera. So he bought me a digital camera for my birthday. How many years ago was that? Like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe something like that. And it sat in its box for close to a year because I was so intimidated. I knew nothing about photography, digital photography, nothing. I knew I had an eye for capturing things or seeing things from certain perspectives and capturing that, but I had no idea how to use this digital camera. And finally, when I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to start learning some of the basics, I just started devouring YouTube videos and going out with my camera, practicing, making mistakes, learning, practicing some more, watching more YouTube videos. And within a few years, I got really good. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I've taken some really beautiful images that I feel really proud of. And that is an example to me that I can learn something completely foreign again, and I'm going to do it. And so I'm leaning into something that's completely different, not knowing exactly where this is going to go. That's also a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I usually have, a map where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to grad school, and then I'm going to get my license, and then I'm going to open my private practice. And, I had this roadmap. With this, I don't have a clear roadmap. I'm just leaning in to the next step that I feel that I'm being led into with curiosity, with a little bit of lightness, maybe even a little playfulness. And so that's another question to ask yourself is, where can you lean in a bit to exploring something during this phase, this season of your life? So that's the first question. I know I've asked you a lot of different questions, but the first primary question is, what season am I in? Okay. Secondly, who am I becoming during this season? Who are you becoming during this season? What are the things that you're growing into? Perhaps you're becoming more wise in a certain respect. Perhaps you're becoming a person that no longer compromises. you're leaning into more authenticity. One of the things that I'm leaning into during this phase is authenticity, and also recognizing what matters most to me. When I think about, all the different platforms, social media platforms that I've spent time and energy on, over the course of however many years, this one is the one that I'm most excited to show up on. And I've decided I'm only going to focus on this one going forward until further notice. Right now, as I'm recording this video right now, I have 4 subscribers. That's it. I'm very fresh. This is the very beginning of my journey on this channel, and I'm basically starting from the ground up. And it's the one that feeds me the most right now, because all the other social media platforms just feel like dopamine hits. And I can't stand it. It doesn't align with who I am. I would rather spend time building from scratch, from ground zero, on a platform that aligns with who I feel like I am stepping into, like more authentically. I love going deep with people. I love long form content. I love spending time with people for more than a couple of minutes, right? So all the other platforms, they can wait. I'm in the season of simplicity, slowing down, recognizing what matters, and leaning into creativity in my spirituality as well. So ask yourself, who am I becoming right now during this season? And maybe spend some time journaling about that. Third question, ask yourself, what emotions am I predominantly feeling? Now, why is that important? Number one, it gives you an inventory of perhaps some of the inner tensions that you might be experiencing that are inviting you to explore them more deeply. And I think if you ask this question over time, it can be very enlightening, because I'll tell you, I wrote this question down this morning, and my answer, my first gut response answer kind of surprised me, because had I asked myself this question a month ago, it would be drastically different. So when I asked myself, okay, what emotions am I predominantly feeling? What came to me this morning is anticipation. And this is what I wrote. I said, I feel hopeful and expectant that what I'm spending my time on is actually taking me somewhere, and somewhere beautiful and deeply satisfying. If you would have asked me that same question a month ago, I would have said, I feel anxious, I feel dread, I feel worry, I feel scarcity. A month later, things have shifted. There are a lot of different things that I needed to look at through a different lens in order to get me to this place where I have more peace now. And not only more peace, but more anticipation that this chapter in my life, regardless of how unproductive it looks to the outside world, is actually probably maybe one of the most replenishing chapters in my entire life. Just like my husband's sleep score, right? This could be the most beautiful time in my life, where to an outsider looks like there's nothing happening. It's just like an oak tree. You plant the seed or the acorn in the ground, you see nothing happening, but there is something magical happening below the surface. And you give it enough time, you give it enough nutrition and what it needs to grow, and that thing will grow into something so outlandishly beautiful. But where does it start? Nobody plants a huge oak tree fully mature and grown, right? It starts as a small, tiny little thing beneath the surface, below the surface, that you don't see. And I think that's one of the perspective shifts that I've had during this season of uncertainty, during this season of things, my capacity, my bandwidth has changed. It's inviting me to look at things with a different lens. And now I can say, wow, I feel more anticipation. And a big part of that is because I did have a perspective shift. So what are you feeling right now? Don't force yourself to have a different perspective shift. You have to be honest with how you're feeling right now first, right? I need to be honest with how I was feeling a month ago in order for me to get to where I am today. So there's no shame in feeling anger, animosity, resentment, frustration, all of those things. Just be honest with what you're experiencing, right? So, okay, last question. Here's the last question to ask yourself. Question number 4. What is one thing I want more of during this season? What is one thing that you want more of during this season? For me, it is simplicity. Simplicity. I want to cut out all of the things, and I'm cutting out all the things that really don't matter. I'm focusing on the things that matter most. I'm recognizing all the beautiful things that are here during this season of uncertainty, during this time when I have more time, where in my past season it was busy, 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 productive, productive, productive. And this season is like a season of planting. And that's so important because, a lot of times we want the harvest, right? We can't wait for the harvest. But there are seasons, there are things that we need to go through in order for those things to happen. And so for me, this is a season of, the one thing that I want the most of during this season is simplicity. Cutting out more of the things that don't matter. Getting rid of more clutter. Simplifying that as well. This morning, I actually just spent some time just hacking away some of these excess branches that were near the rose bushes, and we have a tree in our front yard, and it was growing all these different shoots right around the trunk with all these thorny, it looked like new trees popping up that had all these thorns on it. I just spent probably half an hour this morning just hacking down all of these things that are just taking away from the beauty of the things that matter most. And so that's the other thing too, that here's another metaphor that I was thinking of this morning. Those things were almost like choking that tree. They had all these offshoot branches that look like new trees popping up with all these thorns. Those things needed to go. And so for me, again, this season of simplicity, the one thing that I want most of is simplicity. Why? Because there's so many branches or, offshoots that have thorns in them that are choking the things that matter most. Those things got to go. And so what is the one thing that you want more of during this season? And how can you honor that? I hope this video has been helpful in some way, shape, or form. Please leave your questions or comments below. I'd love to hear more about, what season you're in, what you're leaning into, and what you want more of. I think it's important for us to know that we're not alone in this and to encourage each other. So I will see you in the next video.